Hello again, this is Carol Paz, your hostess for Women to Women, and we are back with Shala Fedai. Shala is on a second program because her story is not only one of fascination, but it's one that many, many women can identify with in so many different ways. But before we turn to Shala, I'd like to say thank you so much to our sponsors, Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, international teas, and balsamic vinegar from Modena, Italy. And we'd also like to thank Villa Bastelling Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. So remember, you can watch us on Facebook, like me on Facebook. You can also, as the credits come up, the information on our website and on our email address. So if you'd like to make any comments on tonight's show, feel free to do so. But right now, we're going to turn back and welcome Shala. Shala, hi again.
Hi.
Shala, not to go back over all the first show, but I know that our audience is really sitting on the edge of its seat, so to speak, because you left us with the information that you came to Oklahoma, you came during a period of revolution in Iran, you were able to get passports and exit out of the country, and you came to the state of Oklahoma to go to college, and you came with a portion of your family. But you never finished your education, although you were vastly interested in psychology and were being mentored by a very special older gentleman, Dr. Ladd, and hoping to finish, but you interrupted that education to marry a member of the royal Jordanian family. And it was a mistake. And you found yourself not on your wedding night even wanting to be with this man. But in your inner feelings and in your outward behavior, you wound up being beaten. And for 2 days, you were injured. You were perhaps comatose. We don't know because no one was there to really, as a doctor, take a look at you. But you came to after 2 days of not only verbal abuse, but violent physical abuse.
Yes.
Now, the women in our country, many of them have been in that same situation. And you are having to think as well as you can under these circumstances. What do I do? When do I do it? How do I do it? Who do I share this with? And I know, just as an American woman, but also as a woman who's been married to an Iranian, living in a traditional culture like Iran, women are more or less seen and not heard on many occasions.
Yes.
So how did you handle this terrible, terrible situation, Shala?
Well, I did like what my mother would do. My mother was a strong woman. Mm-hmm. I ran away and I traveled to California with friends.
In secret?
They were coming to California.
Okay.
And they were traveling. They had that planned already. In the last minute, I called them and I said, I want to come with you. I can't take this. So I picked up the suitcase, filled them up with all the shoes that I had, and I met them at their house. And next day at 4 o'clock, we started driving. We had 4 cars. We drove from Oklahoma City to California.
In caravan style, so to speak, yes.
And they were actually ministers. They came to California and they started ministry, Salt One, which still is. And I stayed with them for a few months.
So these were trusted friends.
Oh, yes.
Of the faith, of the Christian faith.
Yes, ma'am.
And they were offering you not only the help, the emotional help that you needed, but the physical distance that you needed to put between yourself and your Jordanian husband. What happens in California?
In California, after a few months, I decided to go on my own and work, and my Jordanian husband showed up, and
He found you.
He found me.
He tracked you.
Yes, and after a while, he was just an unhappy man because there was more issue with him and his life, and he went back to Jordan, and his plan was for me to go back with him after, a couple of weeks or so. I just never answered his phone, and I got my annulment after that, and I was free.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Annulment is a term that we use within our culture as well, and it is the finishing of a marriage.
Yes.
It was never consummated.
That's
so How did he respond to that annulment as a Middle Eastern husband?
He knew that that was annulment because I never wanted to be with him from the first night of our day one. So he knew it was annulment. And he knew he left the country with no passport, no visa. I took him to airport. He had a suitcase, and 6 men with suits, black suits, showed up. They came in terminal in Sacramento airport, and they walked him to the airplane and left. And this man left with no passport, no visa, and he couldn't come back, or he did, and he never could find me after that.
Okay. So that you chose to leave. You made decisions to go with trusted friends,
Yes.
and to find work on your own in California. And then you did a very smart thing. You got a legal piece of paper that annulled the marriage. So within this country, there was a safety factor for you.
Yes.
Legal safety factor. All right, you're in California. You're not married any longer. What are you doing?
I was in California, and I wasn't citizen, and I
Had not
didn't
applied
have
for
a degree.
Okay.
So I decided...
Yeah, that's tough.
Yes, so I decided first I needed to work on my citizenship. I took care of that, and I met the man, and I have 2 beautiful children. Unfortunately, that relationship didn't work out. I would rather not talk about that.
That's fine.
But I have 2 beautiful gifts, and my son and my daughter, and life went on.
Life went on. You probably at this point, as a mother now, okay,
Yes.
and I'm putting us back in California still, we're still in California, had to make some very important decisions about marriage. And having come out of a violent relationship, a very abusive relationship where he beat you into unconsciousness, marriage again would be a high risk chance. And the emotional scars, the mental scars, and the physical scars take a while to heal. So you were probably wise in keeping your distance from the institution of marriage again for a while, but now you have 2 children. Where did you turn to help raise these 2 children without a father?
At that point of my life, after I left the relationship with my first husband, I hate to use that word, I had Christ in my heart. And at this time, he was the only thing I had. I rely on Jesus Christ and everything, for everything.
Now, is your mother in the country at this time of your life?
Both my parents were in Iran.
All
They
right.
actually came to visit when I was in Sacramento.
Okay.
Both my parents.
Okay.
They heard about my marriage, and before I had my children, they came to visit.
Okay.
Then they left after that.
And when they left at that time, how many years went by before you finally saw them again, your parents?
I never saw my mother after that when they left. She passed. And I saw my father about maybe, I don't want to be wrong about the date, but it was years. I had my son and my daughter.
All right.
And we met we had a family reunion in Canada.
Okay.
And at that time, I had my son and my daughter.
And they would have been approximately how old?
10 years old. My son was 10 years old, and my daughter was about 8. And they met Papa for the first time. Yes.
Papa meaning their grandfather.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Shala, there's a lot of time that we just skipped over. And I think that the American women and also the people who are listening to our program tonight probably don't understand why so many years in between seeing your family again. But there's a cost with some of the things that we do. When you applied for citizenship to the United States, way back in California, did that have any kind of reverberation back in Iran? by giving up your Iranian citizenship to become an American citizen? Were there any repercussions because of that decision?
Not from my family. My
Right.
family they were happy for me.
Okay.
You have to realize after 1978, Shah left and Khomeini went, and Khomeini changed the culture, not only the culture, the religion.
It became very fanatical.
It became fanatical.
Yes.
And by now I'm Christian. I decided to go back and visit, but I called embassy and they wanted me to get Islamic passport and return my birth certificate and change that to Islamic. That against my religion
Yes.
and my belief, and I didn't want to do that. So it was pretty much my choice,
Yes.
not going back to Iran.
Right. Okay, so when you, and I think Americans would have a hard time understanding unless they have lived under a regime such as the Ayatollahs, where you are not free as you were under the Shah. There were certain things I remember having to be careful about saying and about doing, but in general, women had a tremendously good status in Iran.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yes.
Empress Farah, the Shah's wife, had done so much to emancipate
Yes.
the women. They were holding jobs like men did in the government. They were on television. They were business owners. They had made tremendous strides, and suddenly that all changes.
Yes.
And for you to walk back into those sudden and fanatical changes meant giving up what you had learned here and the way of life here.
Yes.
So you have never been back to Iran.
No, I never have.
Neither have I. Okay, for various, some of the same reasons. All right. When you met with your family in Canada, it must have been a remarkable reunion. You are seeing people that weren't even born.
That's true. Yes.
Help us understand that. Who were you meeting for the first time?
I met my niece and nephews and some of the cousins that I haven't seen since I left Iran. And many family members that I didn't know they exist. And it was just a wonderful time. And they didn't know my children. So that brought us back together.
And how did your father, who is now Papa John, okay, the grandparent, how did he make this relationship with these brand new grandchildren of his go?
Well, first of all, my father was a wonderful man. He was my friend when I was in Iran. He was actually my dance partner. We danced together, and I loved him so much. I was very close to him. When we met him in airport, and I walked to him, and he looked at me, he held my face, he said, "You are so old." And I held his hand and I said, "Papa, look at yourself."
Times have moved on.
Yes, he loved my children.
Oh.
And he just adored my children, and my children just loved him.
How many years did he get to spend with your children, knowing them?
We were together about a week or
Yes.
so. And he was very happy. I had a special bonding with my son. Special knowing that my son has his name.
And that's such an honorary title. That's such a compliment to a parent.
It really is.
To give your child the parent's name. In Iran especially. Well, here too.
Yes, my son's first name was after my spiritual father, Dr. Forrest Ladd. And his middle name is my real father, Ghafoor. So, yeah,
how beautiful. Well, when we come back to the second half here, Shala, we want to take a look and reflect, what have you learned and where are you now? As an American citizen, mother of two beautiful children, grown children, one of whom is serving in the United States military, where are your interests now? What are you doing with your life now? Because I know you're very active here in the community of Carson City, so don't go away. There's more to this story yet.
Report of wildland fires threatening structures.
When disaster strikes, will you be ready? Information is essential during a disaster. That's why we use the latest technology to keep you informed. When you register, you'll receive emergency alert messages on all your devices and phone numbers at once. Go to ReadyWashoe.com. Click on the Get Message icon, Then just fill out this quick form. It's easy. Don't get caught unprepared. When disaster strikes, be ready.
Pets of the Homeless is a non-profit, all-volunteer organization that provides pet food and veterinary care to the homeless and less fortunate in local communities.
With donations from the public, we're able to provide homeless shelters with crates, bowls, cleaning materials, so that homeless with pets can come into homeless shelters and get the services that they need to get out of homelessness.
How was school today?
Cool, we learned what to do in case there's an emergency.
Oh, will you show me?
Yeah, and if there is an earthquake, then you get under your desk, duck, cover, and hold. And when the shaking stops,
we evacuate the school just like a fire drill.
I'm glad you both know what to do in case of an emergency, but I'd still be worried.
You're supposed to check the phone, radio, or TV, and they'll tell you what to do.
Make a plan.
Assemble a kit.
Stay informed.
And be ready.
Welcome back again to the second and final portion of our story with Shala Fedai. Shala, I know we're going to have so many viewers, so many listeners who write in and call in and remark about the courage that you've shared with us. And it's been a direction for a lot of people out there. We have no idea how many people this is reaching or all the seeds that are being planted. But I just want to say to you, in Farsi, kheli mamnoon. Aliye. Thank you.
Merci.
So, Shala, when we come around to kind of taking a look where we are today with our lives, we move on. Change is a part of life, isn't it?
Yes.
And some of it's very workable, but most of it is difficult. Change is not something that we really like to have to deal with too often. And I guess that's just part of being human. It's part of our nature. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you, here in Carson City, I see your face around several places. So I know that Shala's out there, she's involved. What has taken your interest in your time now? What is it that you do with your time that really matters to you?
Well, I know your show is not political or religious. But
it can be. It can be. It can be. Yes, it depends upon my guest. It depends upon my guest entirely.
Yeah, but religion and politics is very important to me.
Now, those are two subjects, I got to tell you, Shala, as American kids, we're taught, don't talk about it. It's really inflammatory at times, but I love it. I'm like you. I want to talk about it. Okay, so let's go.
It is important to me.
It is.
It became more important after 9/11.
Yes.
And that because I felt...
Where were you on 9/11?
I was here at Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so you remember really everything about that day,
I was watching it was happening, and I knew it was terrorist attack. And I went home, and I let my children know. The first things I did, I went in my Christmas box, and I found 3 ribbons. Red, white, blue, and tie them to their backpack, and I told them not to tell anybody your mother is Persian. Just the fact that I wasn't sure what kind of reaction they can get.
What kind of an attack it really was upon whom?
Yes.
Or whom, yeah.
And I didn't want them to get hurt just because their mother was Iranian or Persian. I know that was the first thing I did. But it is important to me because I felt my faith and everything that I found in the United States, in America, my freedom, my religion was attacked. It was under attack by radicals. And a woman that I am today, I'm going to fight this.
How do you fight it?
I get invitation. I have had experiences. I've been places and a culture that I'm familiar with the religion, with the language. Often I get invited to speak and explain, and that to me is a service.
Yes,
and
you're building bridges of understanding, of knowledge.
Yes, and on the other hand, it's a payback to this wonderful country that has given me a life and my children.
All right, aside from some of the political presentations that you do, the sharing of your life, and why politics is so important to you. Do you think that your audience is getting it? Do you ever have any feedback from the women who are listening to you, or the men who are listening to you? Do they become impassioned because of your experiences?
Absolutely.
How do you know that?
I get a lot of feedback, and I have people that they come, they hold my hand, and they say thank you. They have a better understanding, even just the language. And I'm very factual. I give them the facts, and I give them where to go and research it for themselves. And I think that's very important. I do some of the work to introduce what I have to do to my audience, to people. But I am always encourage them to go and look it up and learn that. And I think in the time that right now in the United States, we are under attack. That's how I feel. And everyone needs to know and understand the Islam's culture, need to understand the culture of some of the countries are different than Islamic religion. And
how do you mean that?
How do I mean that? It's
help us to understand that.
For one thing, Islam, it's Arab. It started from Arabian country, and it divided to two branches, which is Sunni and Shia. And Shia took its way to a different country. This was a way of Islam to expand the religion. So Shia goes to countries such as Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran. And when they take over the government become Islamic.
Yes.
And people,
what about the Sunni?
Sunni, it's pretty much dedicated to countries like Sudan or Saudi Arabia, and Jordanians and Lebanese, the Arab-speaking language.
Okay.
And
the Arab-speaking nations.
The nations, yes. That is the big difference. So when you go to Pakistan, not necessarily the culture is the same as Islamic. After years later, yes, the culture loses their identity and become Islamic, because the first rules in Sharia and Islamic that God will not hear your prayer unless you say them in Arabic. That's the first step of changing a culture. So that's I encourage people to understand that because I'm Iranian, I wasn't born Muslim.
No.
I have my culture, which is a Persian culture, and it's different.
And 2,500 years of Persian culture.
Yes, and in 34 years it's been destroyed, and it's on its way.
Now, I just briefly mentioned that you have a son who serves actively in the United States military.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that his decision? Was there encouragement on your part for him to do that? How does he feel? I mean, he's born in this culture.
Yes.
He's an American-born child, citizenship, but with a Persian mother. And I'm sure you had a tremendous amount of influence as he's growing up. But he takes a very active and pronounced interest in the military.
Yes.
About supporting this country. He's young. Does he see the same things as you do, that we are under attack? Is that why he's in the military, to protect?
Yes, he is. My children both are American. Their father, they were born here. Their father is American. And I had a good childhood in my family, and I tried to pass on some of those good values to them. And one of them is to appreciate the freedom that they have here, because it wasn't the same.
No.
Or it's not the same now in a country. We have always been very honest and open with both my children. I let them know, I told them about what Islam has done to the culture, and they have to be grateful to what they have. And when my son chose to go in service, and That was his choice. But the night that he was deployed to Afghanistan, I met up with him, and I apologize if my teaching, the way he was being brought up, had anything to do with his decision, because I didn't want to lose my son.
He was going into enemy territory.
Yes. And he mentioned that, actually, in one of the articles that it came out, that was important to him to go fight for his country, for his, where he, for United States, because he didn't want, he believed what his mother went through, or his family. He want to have a way of doing his part.
Yes.
To liberate, to help to liberate a country such as Afghanistan.
And I think one of the important things that you have done, Shala, with both of your children, you pass on the oral, the spoken tradition of their Persian heritage and their American blessings of freedom and security here. There are many of us who forget that conversation, where we came from, who we are, our identity is a mixed identity. But you've taken the best of the Persian culture, infused it into them. You still maintain many of the traditional good times, for Nowruz. Even though I was not born in the Persian culture, Nowruz is still a part of my celebration, because it's such a healthy celebration.
It is, yes.
Of life itself and of all the goodness that God has given us. So your children are remarkable in many ways to have received this kind of instruction.
Yes.
Not every child has that opportunity from a parent.
Not only they receive that, they are practicing it. I can give you two great examples.
Sure.
My
Absolutely.
daughter, she's not even 21 years old, and she is a senior in University of Georgia. She works, she's full-time in the school, and she volunteers for Children's Miracle. She volunteers for Boys and Girls Club. And she calls me and tells me great stories. And my son, when he came back, when he was serving in Afghanistan, he's in outside country, in different country. I hope you don't mind. I don't want to mention that.
Not at all.
But when he came home for vacation, a couple weeks, couple days before he left, we went shopping. He bought tons of socks, baby socks, boys and girls, and clothes. And when he called, I asked him, what did you do with those clothes? He said, Mom, when we are driving in the villages in our tank, and the little boys and girls standing by the side of the road, and they do this, they want a candy. And I tie the socks, and I tie the shirts, candy. And I throw it at them.
Yeah.
And when I hear those stories from them, I know they received it. I know they practice it. And that's, it's
well, you know, Shala,
it's important to me.
Oh, yes. And you are a cultural bridge. You really are. You are making every effort, personally and publicly, to bring understanding between peoples of different nations, peoples of different languages. And that's a unique talent. Not everybody has that.
Thank you.
So as an American, as at one time Iranian citizen, I say thank you so much for the efforts that you're making. And I know that Shala and her family, there's a path yet that these children of hers, her son and her daughter, are starting on, and it's not finished by a long shot. And Shala, when you see her face in and about the Carson City area, the Reno area, anywhere in northern Nevada, remember that this little petite lady has made a whale of a difference in a lot of people's understanding and their passion for this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week with a brand new show, a brand new guest. But in the meantime, enjoy what you've seen and heard. Have a good evening.